Hi, marketers. This is Dots, and welcome to the Marketing Leadership Podcast. With me here is Paul Cohen, partner, CEO, North America at Milk and Honey PR. We will be encouraging you to tell your brand stories so that you can drive better business results. I know you guys are ready, so let's do it. Paul, welcome. How are you doing?
Doing great. So nice to be here.
Absolutely. It's really an honor having you here. Do you want to tell us a bit about yourself, your background? How did you come up with Milk and Honey? Was that like something from Moses leaving Egypt to Canaan, or how did that name come about? All the successes you've made in your career, let's hear all of it.
All right. Well, I've been in the business for about 3 decades, and I've lived and worked on 3 continents, 4 years in China, 5 years in Brussels. Most of my time, I think I was 7 years in New York between China and Brussels, but most of that was spent on plane, mainly going to what at the time was called the BRICS markets. And I was with Ketchum, which is owned by Omnicom, for 17 years. I was with Burson Marsteller, which now BCW, soon to be again Burson, which is owned by WPP,
Yep.
for 5 years before that. So most of my clients before starting Milk and Honey were Fortune 100 companies, global sovereign nations, international institutions, industry associations. And I got to do really amazing things. I went to G20 summits and G8 summits and World Economic Forums and UN COPs and Olympic Games. I had meetings in the Kremlin and the Pentagon and the Great Hall of the People and the United Nations. So really heady stuff. And I got to work with amazing people. But after having been with these large agencies for so long, I really knew there was something more, a different way to run a professional services firm, let alone a PR firm.
Mm.
And I think, and this is not a comment at all on either of my previous big employers, but I think
Please,
for a lot of,
don't put well, please. Thank you. Go ahead.
sorry?
I know I'm saying the listeners or viewers should not slander you on Twitter, or X, or online on social media. So it's
Oh,
just a comment. Yeah.
no, and they're wonderful companies with terrific people. But I think for any legacy business, there's a tendency to sort of look at things and go, well, we did it that way in 1986, so that's the way we do it today.
Yeah.
And I knew there was a better way. So I left Ketchum during the pandemic, was figuring out what was next, doing some consulting. And I got connected with a woman named Kirsty Leeton, who founded Milk and Honey in London. And I didn't know Kirsty, but I knew of Milk and Honey. They were founded when I was still in Brussels and immediately became one of the hot shops in town, doing great work, winning awards. So I was always aware of and there was a project that needed some US attention. So a few people connected us, and I just loved what she had built and what Milk and Honey really stands for. And long story short, throughout our conversations, she let it slip that she might be interested in starting something
Let
in
it flip.
America, and I let it slip that might be interesting for me. And then we got lawyers involved, and it took forever. But we, in May of 2021, we opened shop in North America, and it's been just a tremendous ride. We've been growing. Milk and Honey is now added offices in Munich and Singapore, so we're
Wow.
really truly global, even though we're still retaining our boutique nature.
Yeah.
We really focus at Milk and Honey on nurturing reputation, and you'll probably hear me refer to reputation and the vital importance of nurturing reputations to inform anything to do with brands and branding and even with products. It's that overarching halo of reputation that's so important. We work with ambitious, high growth organizations, and the red thread that connects our clients is a sense of purpose. And every company on the planet now describes itself as purpose driven. So I recognize the term has become meaningless, but the impulse is very real. And so we actually are a purpose driven, ambitious, high growth business. And one of the ways we look at measuring purpose is through B Corp. And we were one of the first PR firms to become a B Corp, and are actually now the highest scoring B Corp PR firm in the world.
Wow.
And it's a rigorous process, and it's a really heavy lift, but it does two things. One, it sort of a outside validation that we do walk the talk. But even more importantly is that the way they measure purpose-driven for-profit organizations has become really our roadmap. And that really defines how we behave, how we engage with our employees, how we engage with our clients, how we treat our local community, how we treat the wider planet. So that's become so important. And so really, at Milk and Honey, we are a purpose-driven, ambitious, high-growth business that works with purpose-driven, high-growth businesses as well.
Hey there. If you're anything like me, have lots of website traffic, but no idea which ones are window shoppers and which are ready to seal the deal, then I've got a game changer for you. It's Lead Feeder. This is a tool I like using. And what it does is it shows you which companies are coming to your site. You can track their behavior and integrate it with your CRM, which will help take your lead generation efforts to make it more targeted. The result? Convert more website traffic into sales. Head over to leadfeeder.com now for a free demo, and you can also get a free extended premium trial when you let the rep know that you found out about Lead Feeder through the Marketing Leadership Podcast. All right, back to the show. Yeah. There has to be a fit there. You've been there, done that. You've worked with two of the $5 billion agencies, as I would call them. I think there are 5. And they're, being able to come up with something new and still build a global company is awesome. Yeah, I'm a part owner of an agency myself, and I'm, when you talk about being global, they're like, there's market in the US. I'm like, guys. Anyway, another topic for another day. But to the topic here, really, telling brand stories, the kind that drives business results, successful business results. I would like you to talk about, and you've had this exposure, so that's good, how brands, in the past and maybe today have been able to shape the culture of customers by, sharing conversations that are vital, marketing conversations that are vital. Apple, for example, right? Through their product, through their brand, they've shaped the way people think about certain things. And if I'm a lover of history. If you want to look at the history of this, the history of Play-Doh, the history of toilet paper, from why there was Santa Claus, you will see that there is one company or the other responsible for that trend. And I think it's something that can still continue to happen the right way today. That of course drives more revenue for the commercial value for the company and creates the right type of culture. So we marketers here that are listening or watching, how do you think we can help our brands reach that level of public reputation, if I put it that way, whereby our product is a symbol for living in a certain way, to deliver some job to be done, and it's always top of mind?
Yeah, it's a great question, and I think, and Apple is a prime example of this. And yes, there's only one Steve Jobs, there's only one Joni Ives. I totally get, and they make great products. I'm talking to you on my iPhone right now, but it's not just about their products. Apple really, from the beginning, has focused on reputation and focused on placing themselves into the zeitgeist and really reaching a higher calling. It's not an accident that Simon Sinek in his Golden Circle, sort of the classic, TED Talk, his example was Apple, which talked about, put the why at the center and then extend out to how and then the what specifically. If you think about 40 years ago, the famous 1984 ad for Macintosh, it's because it's the anniversary. There's been a lot of renewed talk about it. And a
Yeah.
few things are really interesting to look at that. First is that it seems inevitable now that's so legendary, of course, and that changed everything. That was hugely controversial at the time. Apparently, the board of directors, when they first saw the ad, they were stunned into silence, and not a good silence.
Yeah.
They had debated about just trashing the ad and getting a new ad agent. They were so nervous about it. The other thing that I think is so fascinating is at the same Super Bowl, there was another ad for another personal computer. This was the TRS-80, which is long
Oh,
forgotten,
I
but
don't know that.
really
Yeah.
was
Well,
it.
I know they are
I have a
like
TRS-80. That was my first personal computer, so I was on the wrong
wow.
side. I wasn't making the purchasing decisions when I was a kid. But they had an ad during the same Super Bowl, and their ad was took the traditional path. They had a celebrity endorser, and they talked all about the specs of the product. So it
Yeah.
was this guy, Patrick Duffy from Dallas, the primetime soap opera, was the spokesperson, and they
Mhm.
talked about how great the computer was. Apple never talked about the computer. They didn't show a single spec. They didn't show an image of the computer, but they talked about what the power of personal computing can do.
Yeah.
And that is so vital because it wasn't about, is our keyboard better? Is our screen this? It was about they're taking on the whole PC, the personal computing revolution, and they become the exemplar of that. So
Yeah.
it goes back to how to tell a story that ties into a broader cultural conversation and go beyond the product. Products will come. People will purchase the products if they believe in the brand. Brand is a promise. And
Yeah.
when you tell those stories, whether it's through ads or certainly through earned media, it's the same thing. It's tapping into the zeitgeist and telling the bigger story.
Yeah. Yeah. I am an avid marketing strategy guy. Made enough, more than enough decks to last a lifetime, multiple lifetimes now. And you talk when you look at the job to be done for a product, there are layers to it. So there's the basic one, which is what the folks with the other personal computer did. I can't remember their name. You just mentioned it now. Uh,
DRS.
PRS, yeah. And then then folks like Apple then added another layer on top of that job to be done, which is aspirational. Some people will say this is a three-layer thing. I try to just keep systems simple, frameworks simple, to say it's a two-layer goal when it comes to trying to get a product market fit and saying, okay, what is the job to be done for this target market, right? And that was just the difference, basically. Does it mean that you should scrap the first level product feature based? No. But being able to use the right messaging at the right time is really what makes these things very meaningful. And being able to use, tools like public relations or paid media or end media, like you said, to drive this is also something that not just goes viral. Hashtag Snoop Dogg, I don't know what it was really, um, and but to actually get the sales to come in. So one other related question that I'm looking at is being able to be transparent as a brand and being meaningful, being transparent um, as a brand. My question is, sometimes people don't know who to talk to. Should we talk to the customers, especially in PR? Should we talk to customers? Should we talk to the market? Should we talk to certain stakeholders? What is the importance of relevance versus virality in telling brand stories in general? Again, it doesn't matter if it's PR. I think PR is awesome. But what's the impact of relevance versus virality in trying to tell this story and connect to people directly?
Yeah. I mean, two sides of the same coin, I think. And you can't control virality. I always love it when clients come, we go make a viral video.
Yeah, well, you want to go viral.
Yeah. Like, great. That's not what, I mean, that's the result. That's not the approach. But, I do think it really, the most important thing is for that continuity is nurturing reputation. And there, there's a reason we chose nurturing reputations as our brand slogan, because I think
Right.
that's so vital. And it's something that has to be tended to all the time, because your reputation is the most important thing. A strong reputation will elevate you in good time, will mean that when people are looking to buy products, they're going to go with the company that they trust, the company that they believe in, the company they're aware of. And frankly, when bad things happen, we do plenty of crisis communication at Milk and Honey, and bad things happen to good companies. People recognize that. But if you've demonstrated that you are, in fact, a good company, and you built your reputation and spent the time and resources in doing so, even if there's an erosion of trust because of whatever crisis may have happened, you'll be able to fairly quickly, if you handle the crisis well, get back your reputation. If you've spent no time, money, and resources building your reputation, and you make good products, great. People might buy the products because they're high quality or cheap or functional. But if something bad happens and you're just a product, they'll leave the product behind because they don't believe in the broader business. So I think that relevance is really the way I'm interpreting your question. Is relevance is really reputation, and that's what's so important. And tending to it may seem like a nice to have because it's not necessarily driving sales
Yeah, it's
today.
not driving sales. Exactly. It's not driving sales tomorrow.
But if you don't tend to it, there's going to be a drop off, and you're putting yourself at great risk.
Yeah, Paul, thanks for breaking that down. I think one thing that you said in all that I would like to pick on is, how do I put this? I don't want to be too sentimental, but I should be sentimental. Driving certain marketing initiatives, e.g. PR, and making it always on. Due to budget constraints, typical marketing practice or something like that, people sometimes tend to say, well, especially in the B2B, there are months where things are just quiet. But when it's like Q4, Q1, or even like January, there's a lot of budgeting going on, and so to be people are running out everywhere. But I am on that camp that says even when things are quiet is when you need to do some marketing because of top of mind awareness. Very, very important KPI. There's stuff around demand generation these days that also helps to achieve. So what has that scenario been like for you and your customers, especially those brands that say, well, we don't need this at this time, or it's just a nice to have even if we do it. How can you run marketing in such a way that is always on, is consistent, and it drives the right top of mind? It's always there. You always see it. It's in your dreams, if I put it that way. How do you encourage companies to do so? Again, this is not a silver bullet episode or podcast. It's what works for you, basically. But again, for those who might a bit, they've got a cold feet on keeping a consistent campaign schedule all year round. What do you tell them?
Similar to what I was saying before, that this is the kind of thing tending to your reputation. And there are many ways to do it. I mean, it's certainly telling stories in the media, but it's also leveraging your social channel, making sure that you're constantly communicating with your stakeholders, defining your stakeholders broadly. So it's not just customers, but it's are the regulators you need to reach, are there share owners you need to reach, or investors, are there employees you need to tell your story to employees and ensure they stay engaged and retained and serve as ambassadors. So it's all of your multiple publics, and different ways to do so. It's also, is your executive team speaking at conferences, going on podcasts? Are you applying for awards within the industry that help shape the reputation and provide third-party validation? It's all of those things. And I think in today's landscape where media are so fractured, where everyone's got their own echo chamber, you can't rely on a single channel or a single approach. And you've got to have real 360-degree approach to communications and reputation, and brand telling, brand storytelling, and all of that.
I agree with you. We had Shama Haida. I often call her the queen of PR on the podcast, and she mentioned something about the messy middle. Where the messy middle, yeah, where there's more than one touch point to a sale, even toothbrush, which is crazy to see, but yeah. And why this is so important to look at the most relevant channel. Nobody is saying you should be on every channel on record, but look at the most relevant channel, even if it's at volume, and try to hit your ideal audience, or ICP as they call them, ideal customer profile. And really hit those people with the kind of stories that you are trying to tell. And hopefully, those stories are able to resonate and drive some level of action. So it's a nice approach you mentioned there. So that's really, really important. Guys, we are talking about telling brand stories in a maybe slightly unique way. Maybe you've heard it before. Fine, if that's the case. But what I'm saying is this: we try to deliver, and we do deliver a lot of value on podcast. This one, most especially this one. And all I'm asking for you is to share. So I'm looking right at you there, or into your eardrums. Please share this episode. It helps us out to continue to do this. A lot of work is put into what is being discussed itself. Most people put in a lot of work into the logistics of the podcast. We put in a lot of work into the content of the podcast, just to make sure it's not just something else you've heard out there. I have one more question for Paul, but before then, we're going to take a very quick commercial break from our sponsor, and then it's going to be the Dots Rapid Fire. I've tested this with a lot of PR gurus, and they seem to survive. So we'll see how it goes. Guys, don't go anywhere. I saved the best question for the last. Stay tuned. Guys, welcome back. Like I said, it's the Dots Rapid Fire. It's going to be 3 questions. Paul is a crisis management expert. So 3-question crisis. Are you going to survive it, Paul? Are you ready?
If I can just interrupt, I certainly do crisis communications, but I'm more of a reputation management expert for what it.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. It's part of your armory. Let's put it that way. It's part of your armory. So we're going to use that. On this. So it's 3 questions. Sometimes we call it the marketing court of law. Sometimes we call it the hot kitchen. Depending on what episode you are watching. Are you ready, sir? Okay, good. First question: what is your favorite marketing metric? And I don't want to hear sales or revenue.
Well, to be honest, I do think that business metrics are the most important, and I'll tell you why. And I get you don't want to hear sales and revenue, but everything else is incomplete. The PR tail should never wag the business dog, and there are plenty of metrics, and certainly measuring PR effectiveness is vitally important. We subscribe to the Barcelona principle, which are the gold standard of measurement in PR. There are plenty of ways to measure. Those are important. Certainly want to kill anyone looking at advertising value equivalent AVE, which is a terrible metric. Plenty of strong metrics. But I really do believe that PR for its own sake is just vanity. But PR in a way that drives new sales, but whatever the business targets are, is really what's important. So the PR metrics in terms of awareness, in terms of reach, in terms of presence, in terms of engagement on social media, they're vitally important and all part of our arsenal. But PR is only effective as a discipline if it is driving the. And if it's not driving the business, then it's ineffective PR. Even if you're in the newspapers everywhere, if you're on TV and it does nothing for your business, you feel good for a day, but that doesn't drive true success.
Yeah, the reason why we often skip revenue and sales is because that's always an easy answer for everyone. But what you just said here, sparked the micro question in me. I was listening to Gary Vaynerchuk the other day. I think 2 or 3 of his ads got into the Super Bowl, and he was of the opinion that adding more calls to action to those Super Bowl ads are great. Is that something you do in telling stories on PR, adding calls to actions?
Frequently, and it depends what the call to action is. It could be you're pushing for a piece of legislation. It could be you're pushing for a consumer to try a product. It could be you want someone to go on the website to engage because then you've shared some data, you've some information. So calls to action are always important, and certainly on, for example, social media posts, or if we're publishing a byline on behalf of our client, there should be a call to action. And it doesn't necessarily mean literally, you Dots must do this, but
More
we
than
as society, whoever it is, have to think about something in a different way. So there frequently should be a call to action in communication.
Okay, second rapid fire question. How long do you use social media every day for work?
I start early in the morning and I look at my social feeds, really to map what's happening in the day, where's the zeitgeist going.
Yeah,
To
react advertising, as they call it.
Yeah, and really to think, how can I insert my client perspectives into these stories that are burgeoning for the day. So that's really where I find social media to be truly useful. So it's 30, 40 minutes in the morning, and then ad hoc checking in, but it's mainly, and some of it is just personal stuff later in the day. But from a work standpoint, it's really in the morning to see what are the conversations that are going to be driving the agenda for the day.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. And I myself have been testing a lot of social listening tools, as they call them, on for social selling. In a way, I would call what all you just said social selling, even though it's social storytelling. To put it out, social storytelling hijacking. So, well, yeah, I just picked one tool recently, and it's was something I used to do back in the client's customer side, brand side. Now I'm on the agency side. Sometimes people don't talk about it, but I think it's something that is very, very useful. And people like you are looking for inspiration, right? You're looking for inspiration to even proactive inspiration, not necessarily the reactive advertising, proactive inspiration on, oh, I've been working on this thing. Oh, I see this. And, almost like an apple fall from the tree moment, Eureka moment, as they call it, as you get. So now to question 3. I can't wait to hear this one because you are a sage in marketing. So, what is your favorite marketing quote?
My favorite marketing quote from a former colleague of mine, a guy called Peter Fleischer, who's now retired, but was a legend at Ket. And when I really worked closely with him, he ran Ketman's business function. And his mantra when you came into a room to give a pitch was, when you're talking, they're judging. When they're talking, they're buying. And I love that, because clearly they have to judge you because you're trying to win their business. The more you engage them in conversation, the more it stops being a monodirectional presentation. Then you're in. Then they're buying because you're showing your smarts. They're asking questions and you're answering them not from script, but from the heart, from all the work you've put into it that really brings it alive. So, I've been married for more than 20 years, so haven't been dating, but I wish I had that. I wish I had that mantra when I was in my dating world. It's probably true in a lot of social situations too. When you're
Yeah,
talking, they're judging. When they're talking, they're buying.
yeah. No. I don't feel too shy about that segue because I believe it was Ogilvy. It's got one of these quotes that has to do with your customer is your wife, or your customer is your mother, or something like that. And that's how I've always seen it, especially the funnel customer part, right? You when you are dating, then you court, then you marry, and then you have to do lifetime value. So it's being recorded on Valentine's week. So that's rough retention marketing, just to put it that way. Married 9 years now. Okay. So great perspective on that one as well. And uh you know, I I think, and I think it's why while stalking you, Paul, there were a lot of conversations, even in your post, conversations. I think people need to have more conversations. Today is not a topic for you, but I worry about the impact of AI. I think AI might reduce the level of conversations we have out there, on people talking to people. But we'll see how it goes. I love AI. I use ChatGPT maybe every day, but I'm still wary about its dependencies. So another reminder, if you're watching or listening to, just be careful. It's still human to human, as they call it, and that's the best way to tell brand stories. Okay. Final question. Um, Especially when it comes to brand stories, or PR or campaigns in general, it's always like we marketing, we're in our own space. Maybe if I'm friendly enough, I'm a member of a commercial team with sales, service, and so on and so forth. We run our campaign, we do our thing from beginning to the end. Um, I would argue that the impact of internal communication is shrinking day by day. And now we have to rely on external influencers. Now people wear two hats: influencer, celebrity, you um, to be able to communicate a brand story. But I'm always of the belief that it is those guys at the product end, it is those guys counting the money, it is those guys doing the marketing, it is those guys trying to say, buy my product. Those are the people. No one can really share the story of the product better than those people. So why are people not leveraging employee engagements to tell even product stories, to tell even brand stories? We don't have to wait for when Apple is about to launch an iPhone and all of their staff members need to talk about it. I'm talking about a consistent system of storytelling where employees are almost at the center. Is that something you've seen with some brands? Where do you see the balance overall?
No, I think you're absolutely right. I think employees have to be seen as brand ambassadors. And I think I may have said this phrase in a slightly different context earlier in the conversation. Companies ignore their employees at their own peril. And it's not just enough to be a good employer. That should be your floor, not your ceiling. But to get your employers to tell your stories, by definition, they know your story the best. They know the brand and the company and if you're a good employer, then you've built a level of understanding and loyalty that you want to really harness. And even for social media posts, if employees like and share and engage, that's not just a vanity metric. That's something that then reaches their networks. And so if you've got these multiple networks, you've got all these kind of conjoining circle, so you're increasing your reach significantly. And people recognize there's a trust that comes with people who work at a company. They say how proud they are of their, it becomes infectious. That becomes viral internally as well, because it's got so many positive effects of, again, really kind of unleashing your own employees to really tell your brand story is vitally.
Yeah. Hopefully not forced. You can't be talking about your company is the best place to work, and salary is not great, work experience is not great. That will probably show in the ad. So, but yeah, I can't really add more to that. I think it's very, very key for. I'm not saying that should be everything, but I think it's key to have employees, you know, participate as much as possible. Even incentivize them if possible as well. If what comes popular as Taylor Swift and charges 10 million per 150-second ad, uh, could somebody else get 5 million, or maybe Taylor Swift go down to 5 million, and you share that with your employees? Who will gladly die for every incremental cent on their compensation. So um, those are some of those things that are always in my head, and it's not just, oh, it's marketing, they are doing their thing, on to the next one. So let's, if you're a leader, make sure that that's important in your strategy. But if you're an employee as well, you can even do it without being asked, and over time, somebody might just pluck you as the face of the brand, which will give you some other extra benefits as well. Is my thoughts there. I know we can go on and on. In fact, my voice, my voice was playing some games on me, but I know we are time. We're already at time already, unfortunately. But thank you so much for sharing some of this. I'm a fan of PR and storytelling. Every Monday, I would share ads from old. I've been doing that for some years now, and I just love those kinds of stuff. And being in the podcasting world, being able to tell stories in that way as well is something that is now piquing my interest. So thank you so much for those memory lane unleashing. Be it that way. Where can people follow you, your company, and learn more, and maybe even get you guys to help?
Absolutely. I love that. So please feel free to email me at paul@milkandhoneypr.com. And I'll spell that, or you can find us on the web at www.milkandhoneypr.com. And just to be clear, that's MILKANDHONEYPR.
Yeah, absolutely. B Corp certified, by the way, I must add.
B Corp certified, the highest scoring B Corp PR firm on this planet.
Yeah, absolutely. Guys, this is how we do it on the episode. Great episodes, great content. We try to make it as simple as possible, which is sometimes incredibly difficult, but it always comes out great. So if you want to see more of this, go to my website, dotslovesmarketing.com. And if you like, you can subscribe, which probably prefer that. Just search marketing leadership on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube, where you can, be a follower or a subscriber. I'd like to thank Descree, Content Allies, and Listen Network for their support. Till next time, guys, connect the dots.